This video is for people in their 30s who are about to hit their 40s pretty soon, people still in their 40s, or people who were just in their 40s and just left who might agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. But these are some of the things that I had to change in my 40s. Now, I'm a young Gen-Xer, so I'm still in my 40s for the time being. Clock is ticking. But these are six things, basically, that I had to change in my 40s. Eating, physical activity, perspective, relationships, 5, money, and 6, sex. I'll save that one for last. But these are 6 things that I had to change in my 40s. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you got some life advice or some comments, some stories to share. But also, speaking of Gen Xers, I'm starting a 24-hour Gen X video channel. So for all my Gen Xers out there, you don't have to be a Gen Xer, but it has to be Gen X related material. I need your content. Give me some good video content, Gen X related, under 5 minutes long. I'm going to put it on this 24-hour Gen X video channel. I'll put the link in the description, or maybe I'll put it on the screen or something. But you got some talent, some life advice, some stories, some good moments, maybe some sad moments, something uplifting, but under 5 minutes. I need your videos for this 24-hour Gen X video channel. That's from my sponsor, Vi-Deo. Vi-Deo. It's basically video with a hyphen in between the I and the D. Vi-Deo, the 24-hour, 24-hour video mall. Anyway, I'll talk about them later. The 6 things. The first thing is eating. This shit right here, yeah. The thing is, I like cookies. No. I like cookies and milk. You gotta have the milk part. For some people, it's a must. It's a requirement. I'm one of those people. But the thing is, I also kind of like milk and cookies at the end of the day, like before I go to sleep. I don't know, like I'm some fucking little kid or something, it's some fairy tale or some shit. But I like milk and cookies. Like at the end of the day, at the end of a hard day or whatever, a nice little treat before I go to bed. There's nothing wrong with that per se. Except I'm not gonna eat one, like the cookies on me, I'm not gonna eat one cookie. I'm going to eat several, perhaps a dozen or 2. I'm going to have my milk. I'm smart enough now to know that I need lactose free. Something else you start to discover as you get older. So eating is one of the things I had to change in my 40s because I started having different things happening, blah, 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 blah. Where it was like, dude, you can't eat and immediately lay down and go to sleep anymore. I know you used to do that shit in your young age. You used to do that, in your teens and your 20s, maybe even your 30s. But now, in your 40s, you can't eat and then go horizontal. It's not, you got to give yourself some time. And there's some people, they don't eat past like 7, 8 o'clock. That sounds crazy to me. You can't eat past 7, 8 o'clock. Otherwise, like, the shit won't settle in your stomach and you're up all night, and some people have heartburn and reflux. I don't have that. I have had that at times in my life, but I don't have a problem with that. But some of the shit that I was having a problem with was eating related. And it's like, man, I used to eat this way all the time back in the day. Like, what's the fucking problem? Shit starts changing. And particularly in your 40s. I saw this one thing during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, I was in my 40s. Like I said, I'm still in my 40s. But I saw this one particular study or something that said there's 2 particular ages where people, their aging accelerates. 44 and 60. During the pandemic, I crossed 44. And yeah, I do feel like around that time period, like something happened that like, I feel like the pandemic, luckily I survived. My family survived. Most of the people that I know survived, but there were some people that didn't make it. Whatever you think about COVID and the pandemic, some people actually died. But I do think COVID, like during the pandemic and all of that shit, and then also crossing the age of 44, I feel like I aged like 7 extra years or some shit. Like I'm telling you, like I used to look a lot younger. This right here, I used to look a lot more crispier. And now like I used to pride myself on not having like bags under my eyes and shit, and now that is a lost battle. But like eating, to go back to what I was saying though, like eating, I had to change different shit. I really like hot sauce. Something about vinegar makes me sweat. Don't know what the fuck that is. If it's got vinegar in it, it's gonna make me sweat and all of this. But I love vinegar, so I might douse some shit in hot sauce or different other things that, you know, I like the taste of it, I like the flavor of it. And now it's like, oh dude, you might have to worry about high blood pressure, you know, too much salt. Like I don't have a problem with it, but many people do. I've always prided myself on having good cholesterol. Like, you know, I in my younger age, I got real good physical activity. So I'll talk about that in a second, physical activity. But it's a building block for your health for later on in life, but so is eating. So I got physical activity when I was younger, but I never really ate well. Bit by bit, because of kids, because of, you know, family life and different stuff like that, I started to eat better. And so, you know, I went from, in my younger age, if I'm eating meat, if I'm eating red meat in particular, it's beef. Flat out, it's beef. Where the fuck is the nearest cow at? If we're not in India, it's mine. And then at some point in my 30s, like I say, because of kids and family stuff, blah, 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 I started mixing beef with turkey. So we would, instead of hamburgers, we would call them tan burgers. 50-50, maybe even 60-40 turkey, depending upon the pricing. And so, like, you mix it up really good. People couldn't tell the difference, but you're eating less red meat. Shit you start thinking about as you get older. You don't think about this shit really in your teens and in your 20s. Maybe not even your 30s for some people. I started thinking about this shit. So, and so now I'm at the point where one of my kids decided to become a vegetarian. So out of solidarity, about a year and a half ago, I decided to not eat meat 1 day a week. Let's not get radical. 1 day a week. So I call it Meatless Mondays. So I do something special, like I said, out of solidarity with my kid. And, you know, and so on Mondays. And so I've been doing it about a year and a half now. And then a couple of months ago, I instituted a second day. You know, that's a variable. You know, I don't know what day it'll be during the week, but it'll be a second day. And so now I'm at a point where for the last year and a half, I've eaten 14.28% less meat. Not just red meat, but meat. I know that because I'm a fucking fraction nerd, and I know 1 out of 7 is 14.28%. But now, adding the second day, I'm almost up to nearly 30% less meat. Not just red meat, but meat. And so that's healthier. It has a certain effect, especially at my age. It's a positive, right? But who in the fuck was thinking this shit in their teens and their 20s? So, I said, like, cause not to mention just like laying down right after you eat. You can't do this shit. Yeah, you worked hard. You had a hard day. You earned it. These little fucking milk and cookies, that ain't shit. I'll burn it off with work. I'll burn it off for physical activity, which I'm about to get to. But the point being is you can't just eat and lay down anymore. Doctors be telling me, you know, they tell people like, look, you got to give yourself at least like, I've heard from 2 hours after you eat before you lay down to like at least a half, you know, but it's like, you didn't have to plan that shit before. You would fully eat laying down horizontal like people used to smoke opium back in the day or something in China. I don't know how you be seeing in the pictures or whatever, propaganda. But point being is you have to change your eating habits. And in your 40s, it really starts to kick in that you have to change your eating habits. But a lot of that also is connected to your physical activity, number 2. So in my younger years, teen years, 20 years, 30 years, I'm a hooper. Love to play basketball, love to hoop. That's how I get my physical activity. I'm one of those people, you throw the ball on the court, I could run all day. I could play all day. I'm a big fella, a little bit as far as height, NBA height size. I'd be a guard, but I'd be in the NBA as far as height. Built more like a linebacker, like a big running back. So, not the smallest dude in the world, but when we playing, when the sport is going on, when we competing, I can go all day long, all day long. I took pride in that. I can still do that. The problem is in your 40s, it hits earlier for some people, but definitely in your 40s. It's the recuperation time. It's the recovery time. I can play my ass off, ball all day, go back and forth. People be talking about, let's play half court. I be looking at them like, man, you get next. We playing full court out here. That was me. I can still do that. But for that one day of hooping like that, 2 or 3 days of aches, moans, you know what I'm saying? And, oh, God forbid you actually hurt yourself. I know plenty of dudes retired. They checked out because they was like, man, I seen somebody twist their ankle. I seen this dude, the bone pop out. I this and that. I got to go to work tomorrow. I got a new baby girl, all this different other stuff. No. And so you start to prioritize. When you're younger, you don't have those same responsibilities. You don't even have those same fears. I see people, young people, and I remember doing this. Being on in one of my first homes that I lived in, we had some bushes in front of our front porch. And so we had a little gate at the end of the front porch and the bushes right front. Anyway, the point is the bushes extended up a certain height. We had a little bit of run space, but we would run and jump over the bush, jump over the rail, jump over the bush onto the lawn and just do that. Like some people might stick the land, and most of the time we would jump and land and tumble. But the point is just at the drop of a dime, for whatever reason, we would jump over this rail, jump over this bush, land on the ground, and that was fun. We don't test those knees like that now. For what? It's got to be a purpose. Am I running from something? Is this life in danger? Is this money involved? Am I trying to protect somebody? There has to be a purpose. We don't just test these knees. We don't just test these body parts like that. But if I'm competing, if I'm playing, so I still love to hoop. I'll get the ball out there and go on the court and go back and forth by myself if there's nobody there. For real, full court. I'll go down. It's one way that, I get my cardiovascular, do something mental. But I'll go down the court one way as the young team. And we just pushing the ball. We pushing the ball. It's just fast paced. And you know how young people is. We pushing the ball and pull up a three. But then, everything is fast paced. And then going the other way, it's the veteran team. We coming up, we posting up, we running plays, this and that. I'll do that. If there's nobody to hoop with, I'll do that. That's one of the beautiful things about basketball is you can play it yourself. A lot of other sports, it's a lot harder. So whether I got people around, I'm a Sigma male. I don't often wait for other people. I'm not handicapped by other people. So it's a gift and a curse. But basketball, as far as physical activity, was my deal as far as, look, I can just go play. I can go play with people. I can just shoot. I can run if I want to. I can mix it up. Getting a little bit older now, young Gen-Xer, still want to run. But dude, I'm diversified. It's one of the reasons why I call myself diversified. I own 3 different businesses. Teeter-tottering with selling a 4th one. That's why I say 3. It's really 4, but the other one, I'm trying to unwind that one. So business, family, anything personal that you can squeeze in. Health, it gets hard trying to schedule things. And so sometimes, depending upon the weather, depending upon different other things you're trying to do in life, the physical activity starts to get cut out. Maybe you didn't keep up with it. Maybe physical activity was never good for you. For me, I was fortunate enough that I was always physical younger. I was husky, but I was always physical. Then started to slim down and muscle up. But always was involved in physical activity. And so that's had some health benefits for me going forward. I don't deal with certain things that other people have had to deal with much sooner than me. But now I also take for granted thinking that that's always going to be the case. And now when I go to different checkups, the doctors are like, you got to look at that cholesterol. And I'm like, dude, my cholesterol has always been good. And they're like, yeah, but we're seeing an uptick. You got to look at your weight. I'm like, man, I've been hovering around this weight for like 10 years. And they're like, yeah, but you know, even though it's gradual, it's not much. We see an uptick. All of these different other things, you know, how you doing with salt? Man, I rarely put salt on my food when I cook it. Yeah, but how much do you go out to eat? Shit. All of these type of things, man. We used to pound bags, like big bags of chips. All of the sodium. You talking about per servings, bitch. We had the whole thing. A 2 liter of pop. If I said pop, you have an idea of what area of the country I'm from. Soda, Coca-Cola, whatever you want to call it. But we'd have a whole 2 liter of it. You know what I'm saying? And like go play it off or go sleep it off. But we never calculated it. And I was good, you know. Teenage healthy. You can't do that in your 40s. You got to change it up. So, you know, you got to eat. You got to be conscious of what you're eating, 1. And 2, you got to be conscious of your physical activity. I, in my 40s, started playing tennis. During the pandemic also, too, it was like, look, how can we get outside, be physical, have some space in a sport that either is not too complicated or we can crank it up some? Tennis. So I had always liked watching tennis, in particular ladies tennis. But it was like, bet, let's get out here and play some tennis. Tennis ain't for everybody. Even though it's a sport that anybody can play, tennis it ain't on everybody's radar. So and tennis ain't, look, I can play basketball myself and go up and down the court. I am not about to hit that tennis ball on one side and then, oh no, this ain't no cartoon. Hitting the ball over the net and then try to chase it. Come on now, I'll kill myself out there. But I want that physical activity. So batting cages, love batting cages. The way some people view golf is the way I view batting cages. You want to network with me, you want to talk business, you want to kick it with me, let's go to the batting cages. That's another story. Maybe I'll make another video for that. But that physical activity, some people do yoga. I've never gotten into yoga yet, but I'm not opposed to it. All I know is actually, no, I can't get involved with yoga because them pants, whoo, I would be distracted the whole session. The whole session I do. No, yeah, I can't go to yoga. Maybe I have to do some at-home online yoga or something. But, yeah. So thirdly, though, in my 40s, I had to take a different perspective on things. You know, because you live your life in the age and stage that you're in. And that's why younger people don't have the perspective that older people have because they've only lived and seen and done so much. And then as you've gone around the sun a time or two, as you've seen, you know, some stuff in your life, you get a little bit broader perspective. And so when you reach your 40s, which is basically halftime in your life, definitely third quarter, if you're fortunate enough to make it, your perspective changes. You know, when the game started, when it was the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, and you're up 5, you're down 5. It's the end of half, you know, the halfway through the second quarter, whatever. But when you in the third quarter, perspective changes. You know, the way that, you know, for a lot of people, they're more liberal, they're more radical, they're more risk-taking when they're younger, in many ways. And then as they get older, perspective, whatever, it tends to change. They then become a little bit more moderate and then a little bit more conservative. You have every now and then someone who's older who is still radical. Every now and then you have someone who's young, who's very old for their age. You know, as they say, like, that person's been here before. But generally your perspective is relative to your age and stage. And when you reach your 40s, I've got another video where I talk about this. So check out some of the other stuff on the channel, in the playlist. Your 40s is kind of like the teenage years for getting older. Your teenage years is really rocky and tumultuous. There's a lot of uncertainty. You've got some feelings about things. You're not really just quite sure how to place everything. And then you start to grow and come out of it. You know, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and then you become an adult. Your 40s is kind of like that too, as far as your perspective, because you are no longer planning and doing the things that younger people do. You've already done it, or it's just you've moved past that. Now you're planning and doing and thinking about the things that are midlife, thus midlife crisis, but then also perhaps trying to prepare for your senior years. Even though in your 40s you're not a senior, I like to call your being in your 40s, you're in between being old young and entering young old. For real. So even think about it in terms of sports. You have 40-year-olds that still play professional, high level, top notch, top tier, top shelf sports, but not in their 50s. Not. We all know the people that have played into their 40s and were still high level. Even if your outcome is way produced, you used to average 30 points a game, and now in your 40s you're averaging 10 or 12. You're still in the professional league, getting minutes, getting points, getting shots, still out there competing. Come on now. But in your 50s, it just changes. And so you have to start preparing for that perspective. Your perspective is such a huge thing in your 40s. Every age, but like I say, your teenage years and your 40s, it's just really volatile. So a lot of people enter their midlife crisis. I entered mine for various reasons, because I was reaching that stage, and then also just, a little personal info. My mom passed around at the same time, and that can be very triggering. So it all kind of collided. But that perspective, that midlife perspective, it's like, am I winning? Am I losing? Is this what this was all for? Is there more? So you have some people, dudes in particular, they rush to go get a younger chick, or they want to try to relive their youth, or they're saddened because they can't get and do what they used to do. And it's because their perspective is all thrown off. All thrown off. They don't have the balance of understanding and appreciating where they're at. So, like I say, when you're younger, you can't really appreciate where you're at because that's all you've ever known. And then in your 20s and your 30s, you kind of forget about where you're at because you're literally, you can't see the trees. You can't see the forest for the trees. I think that's how it goes. You can't see the forest because all of these damn trees. So your 20s and 30s, it's like you can't really appreciate where you're at because you're in the middle of doing it. But in your 40s, something happens where you're like, what am I doing? Am I winning or losing? Is this, like, if I died right now, is this what I want? Is this my legacy? And it starts to freak you the F out. It does for many people. Some people never get a midlife crisis. But I think most people do. How long it lasts, what gets you through it, I don't know. But it's all about that perspective. I can't do what I used to do, but I still can do some things. So for some people, they can take a hold of the fact that they can still do some things. And secondly, this is very important, you know more now than you did then. That's valuable. I was talking to somebody recently. We was talking about our kids getting older and doing certain things, reaching certain milestones. And she was like, would you go back? If you could, would you go back to being 20 or 25 or whatever it was? I almost without hesitation said no. And it's not because I didn't have a good time or enjoy my being 20, 25 or any of that. It's just that I like what I've learned. I like the progress that I've made. No, it's not the progress per se that I thought I would make. Few people do that. But I do like the progress that I've made. I like the things that I've done. I like the things that have entered my life. I like some of the decisions that I've made. And if I went back, those things would be gone. So, the vitality, the youth, the energy, sure, well, no doubt. For me to just simply do this, to have to do this, to like erase 10 years, whereas go back to 2025 and like everything is tighter and crispier, yeah, sure. But I like what I've learned, the progress that I've made, what I've lived through, the different things that have entered my life, the different people that have entered my life. And going along with what I'm saying with this third thing, I like the perspective that I've gained. And when you're younger, it's just harder to have that perspective. And so that's why when you're older, say when you're senior and super senior, you got a hell of a perspective. Your perspective is flipped a couple of times. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you have some seniors turn back into kids. Well, I don't mean it as far as their capabilities. I mean in terms of like their free spirit. And that's beautiful to see. Like, age doesn't have to beat you down. You know, it's that perspective that can, like sunlight and water, lift you back up and lift other people around you back up. It ain't nothing. It's few things sweeter than seeing an older person with a happy, healthy spirit. And it usually comes from their perspective. So that's what I'm saying. Your 40s, you have to change your perspective about, yes, you are undergoing changes. You can't do what you used to do. The world around you is changing. Inside of you is changing, and the world outside of you is changing. And some of that you don't like. Some of that you're not comfortable with. But you should be in a better place up here, and maybe here, than you were. Or at least have a better understanding of what to expect. The scariest thing in life, the thing that really freaks us out the most, is the unknown. And so the really good scary movies, the really good horror stories, it's not about the blood and the guts. It's about the unknown. I made a video about how as a kid, I used to think the furnace in my basement was the gateway to hell. I was sure of it. When I was 6, 7 years old, I was sure of it. The noises it would make. I never wanted to get caught downstairs with the lights off in the basement near that furnace. And so one day I had to trick myself out of that fear by just teasing and putting my foot in the water and seeing what would happen when the lights are off. I'm right here by the upstairs door. If anything happens, I'm out. But and so the point being is, it's the unknown. That's what scares us. And so when you reach your 40s, your perspective starts to crack. It has to adjust. It has to adjust. You got people in their 40s and 50s and such who are still trying to act like teenagers in their 20s. And they usually look silly. But when your perspective changes and you're just happy to be you, then you can do certain things, and you're not doing it to look young. You're doing it from the freedom and the power of what's inside of you. You're not doing it for the external. Because on a certain level, age is external. Perspective is internal. So if you have an aging perspective, yeah, like bit by bit, more things are going to become unknown to you. You're going to become grumpier and grumpier, more unhappy that life is quote unquote passing you by, and you're missing the forest for the trees. But when you have, I won't say necessarily a young perspective, but a healthy, positive perspective, then there's good and bad in everything. I'm going to make a video about that. There's good and bad in everything. So no matter what you do, just do. Just be. Because you spend so much time trying to be the best, or you spend so much time trying not to look stupid. You are both. You're both. Now what? The things about you that you think are the sweetest things about you, you are right. You are right. Can't nobody mess with you. You have talent. You have value in these things. And the things about you that are bad. But now what? Do you retreat and hate the world because some of the world sees the mask fall and sees temporarily how ugly you can be? Or do you live in a world where you only accept and you only see the praise you get when the mask is on and people think you're pretty? I'm a single male, so it's all about authenticity for me. But really it's about a healthy, positive perspective. And in your 40s, your perspective has to start to adjust. It has to. Because if it doesn't, like I say, you're going to have an aging perspective, and the world's going to be less pleasing to you and for you. That leads into relationships. The fourth thing. Relationships. That's a little bit more personal. You never know how things go in relationships. You never... And I'm not just talking about dating. Man, woman, woman, woman. Undeclared. Whatever your gender preference is. I'm not talking about like dating and mating. I'm talking about within your family. Co-workers. Friends you grew up with. Competitors. Like relationships in your 40s. It evolves your whole life. But once again, like I said, I think your 40s is a very pivotal decade, just like your teens. And so in your 40s, relationships, depending upon your perspective, healthy and positive, hopefully, your relationships start to change. I have to confess, I've had some relationships change in a way that I did not want. I did not want things to change the way they changed. But I did feel that there was a change. So some things you can change for the better, and some things change. And I know in some of my relationships in the 40s, I've had at least 4 or 5 relationships of people that I care about, I have love for, and I have wanted us to have a closer relationship, and we don't. And a lot of times people, this goes back to perspective, a lot of times people in their perspective, when they're hurt, they can see how someone did something to them, but they can't. And so for them, their reaction is justified because someone did something to them. I often suffer from this. But you have to try to understand that sometimes your reaction wasn't the first reaction. What someone did to make you react might have been their reaction to something. Could have been to what you did, or could have been to something else. So you take it as, oh, you did this to me. And so my reaction now is to say, I don't mess with you anymore. And then they could look at it like, you said you don't mess with me anymore. And so now my reaction is to double down. When in reality, no one really wanted that. So what I'm getting to is I've had close to several relationships that I wanted to be closer. I felt something, they felt something, the chicken and egg, who did what first, I don't know. But how do you go from wanting something and then it just falling apart and walking away, as Sigma males sometimes tend to do? And then it's like, wow, how did that happen? Where did he go? Where did our relationship go? This isn't what I wanted, but this is what it is. Relationships, your perspective and stuff. Some people, depending upon their perspective, they shed relationships. I have done that. Some people, depending upon their perspective, acquire new relationships. I have done that. But your relationships started to change. Not just, like I say, mating and dating, but people that you grew up with that you used to be cool with, maybe you're not cool with no more. People who previously you never really hung out with, you never really messed with, never thought about them. And now they have a certain renewed value, different value in your life. We didn't see eye to eye before, but now we can relate to each other. But relationships definitely started to change. And speaking as far as mating and dating, in your 40s, that husband, that wife, that spouse, that friend with benefits, whoever it is, when they were younger, maybe they looked a certain way. Maybe they were able to do certain things. Maybe they had a certain stamina. Maybe things in their body were different. You reach your 40s, women go through menopause. Some men, their testosterone levels drop. So some men, they're not as interested in sex. It's your body. What can you do when your body starts to change on you. Defy it? That's like trying to defy the earth. Like, it's going to do what it's going to do. It's organic. It's born and it dies. It renews and it, like, come on now. So, like, you got to ride the wave, basically. You got to ride the wave, basically. So, relationships, like I say, someone might not be who they were physically in their 20s, in their 30s. They may not be who they were perspective-wise in their 20s and their 30s. So relationships, mating and dating, even that starts to alter. I love you, but I can't stand, you know what I'm saying? People be in those type of relationships. No, I do love her. No, I love him. That's my heart. I would never cheat on him. But I can't stand listening to him talk. Or, oh man, I don't even like going home. No, I love her though, for real. She gonna get the life insurance, but whew, I be trying to figure, y'all trying to hang out tonight? Cause I got a few more hours. I'm trying to stay out. It'd be like that. Or people bounce. Hold on, you've been with this person 25 years? You've been with this person how many? And you just leave them like, what about the years? What about this and that? And they'll be like, look, that was then, this is now. Or for Gen X reference, for my Gen Xers out there, what have you done for me lately? Jumping back to Gen X. Remember I said, I'm making a 24-hour Gen X video channel, so I need your video content. Under 5 minutes. Gen Xers out there, you don't have to be a Gen Xer, but it has to be Gen X related material. Nothing obscene, nothing over the top, something entertaining, some life stories, some life advice, whatever. Under 5 minutes. I'll put a link in the description or on the screen, and you can send your videos to that, and then you'll see it on the 24-hour Gen X video channel. It's from the sponsor of this video, Vi-Deo. Vi-Deo. Vi-Deo, the 24-hour video mall. So you can go Google that, 24-hour. The 24 and the hour should be one word. Because if you separate it, then Google doesn't quite know what you're talking about. 24 hours, one word. 24-hour video mall, Vi-Deo. And they help you start your own 24-hour video channel. So for some creators out there, singers, dancers, musicians, actors, rappers, entertainers, they can make their own 24-hour video channel. It's their own platform. They don't have to live by the rules of YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, or like, they can be a little bit more free with what they want to present. You can also schedule your content for different times of the day, for different days. So kind of like a video channel, like a TV channel. So like, maybe you got certain content that's playing Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, or certain content that's playing after 8 o'clock, or, whatever. Also, if you're a school, if you're an institution, like, it's not just for entertainers. You might have a bunch of content that you want to circulate. Maybe it's for a school. Like I say, you want to promote the school, and so you got a bunch of videos of kids and happy times and the playground and the staff and whatever, fundraising. But it's a 24-hour video channel platform. Vi-Deo, they help you start your own 24-hour video channel. And so they're helping me start this 24-hour Gen X video channel. Go check it out if you're interested. If you're not, it doesn't apply. Now, to try to wrap things up, number 5, like I said, is money. Money in your 40s. Money changes. It should change. For some people, if you're fortunate, in your 40s, your money has started to stack a tad bit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you got that 401k, pension, this and that, whatever. Maybe somebody put you on point, put you on game, and you made some investments in your younger years, and so now that's starting to pay off, pay dividends. But money, just like perspective, it changes. When you're younger, your money needs, your necessities, your expenses, much different. You get older, you gotta make this money because you're trying to do certain things. You have certain expenses. You have certain obligations. You're trying to help other people. Also, when you hit your 40s, for some people, they're stuck in this weird place where they got to help pay for their kids, but then also potentially help pay to take care of their parents or different other, people older than them, aunts and uncles or something. So your money perspective, it gets much broader, much further out there. When you're younger, you might be thinking about that money today. You might be thinking about that money this week, maybe this month. When you're in your 40s, you're thinking about your money next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. You even start, hopefully, if you're able to, you're thinking about how does your money outlast you, because you ain't guaranteed nothing out. You're not guaranteed an extra second. I could drop over right now in this video and probably get a couple of comments from it. Maybe the views go up, I don't know. But the point being is we're not guaranteed anything. So when you reach your 40s, you really start thinking about, how does my money outlive me? How does my money go to my kids? How does my money go to my family? How does my money help extended family? How does my money help my community? If your bread is long enough to go that type of way. How do I set up endowments or donations and all this different other type of stuff? I said endowments. But my point being is your money is different. It's a different perspective. And I know for me personally, being diversified, being an entrepreneur, looking for different ways to positively make money and not screw the world, but also get my margins up and put other people on game. As I was put on game, we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. But how do I do these things and make it worthwhile for me, make my money and have some money, leave some money, all of this type of stuff. And like I say, in your 40s, you don't want to be stuck in, I got to make it to pay for right now. If anything, if you're stuck in the, I got to make it, I can't miss a day at work, I can't use no sick days, I got to do double time. If you are unfortunately stuck in that mode, you're the hamster in the wheel going around and around, at least let it be so that at some point you can stop running and have your money go farther than what you physically can take, where you can take it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe at some point that money, because here's what I've always told my kids. So this was me trying to put them on point at a much, much younger age than I was, and a lot of people are. First, you start making money with your back. You physically have to do something. Secondly, you start making money with your brain. Hopefully, you think of things to do that maybe somebody else can actually physically do. And then thirdly, you start to make money with your money. You just put money into it. Somebody else uses their brain and somebody else uses their back. So when you're in your 40s, if you are still stuck on the level of, I got to do it, at least let it be so that at some point before you croak, and we have no idea when that will be, but at some point before you croak, you can actually, how on a bike, like a 10-speed or something, you be pedaling your ass off. And then at some point you want to coast and just feel the speed. If you are on grind mode like that, at least at some point let it be so that then you can finally stop pedaling but keep moving. But some people in their 40s, they got to keep pedaling and know, if I stop pedaling, I will slow down. And I know me personally, I never think that I'll retire. Not for that reason. It's just because I have a certain drive. And as being an entrepreneur, I see business all around. I remember this one, I don't know if it's a direct quote, but I'm paraphrasing this story. Prince was talking about something. Someone was talking to Prince in an interview or something. And he was talking about how, I really, really like the story. And he was talking about how he can make a song pretty much out of any sound that he hears. And so the interviewer was like, wow, that is amazing, really? And he had to kind of like interject and be like, you don't know how torturing that is. That means there are more songs than you'll ever know that I thought about, wrote, pursued. I don't have the time to produce. I don't have time to give away. They will never really go anywhere. Maybe I'll put them in the vault. Maybe, be a part of my estate and someone will come along and then be like, hey, can we buy these unwritten, unfinished Prince songs? But the point being is it's a torture. For me, business is like that. Being an entrepreneur is like that. I see so many different things, so many opportunities. I once told someone, do you realize that everywhere you look around you, literally, everywhere and everything you see around you, someone made money off of. In a capitalist society, in a capitalist country. But even probably beyond that, everything, there's nothing that I could pick up and show you. There's no direction that I could look in, including nature, that someone didn't make money off of. That's a sound. I hear that. I see many different things, and I think that could supply demand. How profitable is that? What's the margins on that? Is it sustainable? Is it brandable? Is it franchisable? Is it investable? Now, do I have the time to do it? Do I have the bread to do it? Do I have the resources? Do I have the networking to do it? Sounds, melodies. So there, so for some people, me being one of them, I'll never retire. Never. No. When my eyes close, when I take my last breath, and I transition to the next life, I'll enter heaven like, God, can I get a permit to set up shop over here? Like, what's the what's the situation as far as like, how's the entrepreneurial community up here in heaven? Or wherever I go. But money in your 40s takes a much broader perspective. It should. Like I said, if you're still stuck in quote unquote short money, it's like, I got to get it to pay this bill for right now. At least let it be some type of end where you can coast on the momentum that you've built up. But and so the last thing that I had to change in my 60s. Woo! Ooh, I might have to smoke on that one later on. That was a Freudian slip. Some Gen Xers are actually entering their 60s. Yeah. Like I said, I'm in the young generation. I'm still in my 40s at the moment. But some Gen Xers actually have tipped into their 60s. I'll see you when I get there. Hopefully, presumably. But sex in your 40s. Luckily, I didn't notice. I've always been, not to put too much of my personal information out there, I've always been more of a hornball. Like, even when I was younger, I was never one of those little kids. I used to call them Brady Bunch kids that like, oh, girls, ew, no, we don't like girls, ew, wait, get away from here, girl, ew, phooey. I was always like, yeah, I'll play dolls with you. You want to play tag, hide and seek? Say what? Say what? Who? Hide and seek? Oh, we had some fun with hide and seek when I was little. Hide and seek. Woo. Parents, I don't know if adults, parents today know this. Hide and seek could be a gateway to some shit. You don't know. You don't know. Oh no, I can't find you. Oh no, where are you? Who is that? Anyway, sex in your 40s. So I never was someone that, like, I'll say had a low libido or wasn't attracted to women or certain things about, women and such. So from what I understand, that's tied to testosterone. And for many people in their 40s, for many men in their 40s, they start to lose testosterone. And so that supposed to has a relation to not as much of a sex drive. So I make no judgments. Like I say, it's your body. Your body dictates what you're going to do. So if you don't really have a drive for sex anymore, what can you do about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, eat oysters? I'm sorry, that stuff looks nasty to me. But for some people, they love doing some oysters. I used to be a waiter way back in the day before I started my businesses. Some people love some oysters. But smells, certain activity, turn people on. But for men and women, if your body is starting to change and sex is no longer a drive, you know what I'm saying? It's there, but it's no longer on the to-do list. For some people, I remember a time period where it's like, let 4 or 5 days go by and we ain't done something. Or we gonna have a problem and I'm taking it out on you, if you know what I mean. And then you get a little bit older, maybe 2 weeks goes by, and it's like, oh, we've been busy, you was sick for a couple of days, I was out of town, this and that, whatever. And I'm saying 2 weeks. For some people, they laugh and they like, 2 weeks, try 2 months, 2 years. And that's maybe it's more just about what's going on in that relationship, which is also tied to perspective. Remember what I was saying? But just sex in general in your 40s, once again, your 40s is like your teen years. It's just it's a different time period. It's a transition. It's a bridge period. And so in your 40s, for many people, they finally start to get to the point of realizing that their sex game is not like how it used to be. For some people, they don't last as long. For some people, they're not as wet. For some people, the positions they used to do, for some people, okay, I'll give you even a little personal thing about me. How much do I want to put out there? I know much better now what I like. I know much better now what I like and who I like. And I have a much better understanding now of what I can put into it. Let me clear that up. I've always known what I can put into it. I've been looking at it for 40 plus years. What I mean is, if I didn't get a lot of sleep, if I drink particular liquors, tequila, if I drink too much of that, you got to catch me at the right time. You got to catch me at the peak of that roller coaster, because if you wait too late, you didn't know that in your younger years, But now that I'm older, like I said, I for damn sure know what I like and what I want. I have an idea of what I'm looking for. And it's just different. Like when you're younger, you just think the horniness of it all will just answer all questions and problems. And when you're older, okay, here you go. Here's a great example. Probably heard this before. I first heard it from the 1980s movie classic Colors, starring Sean Penn and Robert Duvall. Actually had a young Don Cheadle in it too. Damon Wayans was in it for a moment. There's a few people in that movie. Anyway, Colors. The older cop is talking to the younger cop. Older cop and a younger cop are on top of a hill. This is the story. Older cop, younger cop on top of a hill looking down in the valley at... Alright, I'm sorry, I'm messing it up. The older bull and the young bull is supposed to represent the older cop and the younger cop. That's why I was messed up. So the older bull and the younger bull are standing on top of a hill looking down at the valley at a bunch of cows. The young bull says to the older bull, "Hey, Pops, why don't you say we run down there and smash one of them cows?" And the older bull says, "Nah, son, why don't we walk down and we'll smash them all?" That's how sex changes in your 40s. And it depends on your health state, it depends on relationships, it depends on perspectives. But hopefully you're at a space where you're not just driven by the horniness. Because like I said, for some people, their testosterone levels aren't the same, they're lower. For some women, Their bodies are changing, and hey, I love you. I just don't want to make love to you as much. But at least, hopefully, you have an understanding of where you're at and what you like, what you need, what you will and won't do. Because otherwise, if you're out here in your 40s and you're just still like, I'll take whatever. Hey, I mean, you know, go get yours. You know, but you kind of should have figured that out a little bit while ago. You know, be a little bit more selective. But hey, to each its own. But anyway, those are 6 things that I had to change. I like to say recalibrate. I had to change and recalibrate in my 40s. And I'm still in my 40s, so it's not complete. Again, maybe I'll let you know when I cross over into my 50s. But for young Gen-Xer, like I say, for people about to enter their 40s, for some people still in their 40s, let me know if you agree or disagree, if you got some stories, some advice to share. And for people who just left their 40s, you know, same thing. You know, maybe you could tell us what's coming down the pike, coming around the corner. But also, as some people, as they get older, they, you know, start to think about regrets. In your 40s, perhaps part of the midlife crisis, you start to think about your regrets. But it's not so much regrets. It's what did you or didn't you do? Hopefully at 40, you're not necessarily thinking about regrets, but it depends on your life choices. But in your 40s, you do start to try to do the math of everything. Like I say, am I winning? Am I losing? Am I behind? Am I playing catch up? Am I ahead? But if you kind of go through those 6 things and evaluate where you are authentically right now, not so much where you were. Save that for another discussion, another thought. But if you can kind of go through those 6 things and think about where you are right now and where you want to be, if you're given the time, if you're given the health, where you want to be, and focus on that, your perspective brightens up. Even if it's a certain defiance, it's like, I'm going to make these last however many years better or different or the same or whatever. But at least now your spirit has a drive to it. You have a focus, you have an objective, as opposed to just watching the ships roll in and then I watch them roll away. It's a great song, but you get what I'm saying. So